He's lost his memory, but his past isn't. It's hunting him, a relentless shadow. Every step brings him closer to a terrifying truth. The film is told entirely from Henry's first-person perspective. It opens with a disturbing childhood memory. 3 bullies standing in front of young Henry, one of them clutching his toy. The bully hurls it against a wall, smashing it to pieces. Henry's father stands nearby, looking down at him with disgust and calling him a coward. The insult cuts deep. The memory fades, and adult Henry wakes up submerged in a water tank. He's in a high-tech facility. A woman named Estelle helps him out of the tank. He quickly realizes parts of his body are missing. His left forearm and left leg below the knee are gone. Estelle calmly fits him with robotic replacements. He's disoriented and can't speak. His voice module hasn't been installed yet. He has no memory of what happened to him. Estelle tells him she's his wife, though it's clear Henry doesn't recognize her. She takes Henry to another room where 2 scientists, Robbie and Timothy, are ready to install his voice system. But before they can finish, an explosion blasts the door open. A group of mercenaries, led by a man named Akan, storms in. The blast crushes Robbie. Akan interrogates Timothy about Henry's presence. Timothy explains that Henry was nearly killed. His limbs were blown off and his skull fractured. Akan shows off terrifying telekinetic powers, levitating Timothy and stabbing him mid-air with ease. He reveals his plan to build an army of super soldiers, just like Henry. Estelle reacts quickly. She triggers a deafening noise that disorients the mercs and gives her and Henry a brief moment to escape. She drags Henry to an escape pod. They're in a flying facility high above the ground. The pod ejects, crashing down onto a bridge. Henry pulls Estelle from the wreckage. Before they can regroup, another mercenary team arrives, this one led by Yuri. Estelle urges Henry to fight. He takes on Yuri, landing several powerful punches, but the group overwhelms him. Yuri hurls Henry off the bridge. He slams into a car below, then stumbles into a freight container. Inside, he finds a vehicle. Thinking fast, Henry lets it roll forward to strike the advancing mercenaries. He battles them furiously until a van crashes through, taking out several of the enemies. The driver is Jimmy, a strange but confident man who seems to know exactly who Henry is. He finishes off a few more mercs and tells Henry to come with him. As they drive, Jimmy instructs Henry to open the glove compartment. Inside is a charger, essential for keeping his mechanical parts powered. Before they get far, 2 police officers pull them over. But these aren't ordinary cops, they're working for Akan. Without hesitation, they shoot Jimmy in the head. Henry bolts, fleeing into a nearby subway station. The dirty cops chase him down. He turns to fight, managing to kill one of them in the process. Henry escapes back to the surface and hops onto a bus. There, he sees Jimmy again, but this version of Jimmy is dressed like a homeless man. It becomes clear that Jimmy is somehow replicating himself. The homeless-looking Jimmy yanks a tracking chip out of Henry's arm and tells him his next mission. He needs to find a man named Slick Dimitri and retrieve a booster pad from his chest. Once that's done, Henry is told to meet Jimmy again. Jimmy looks out the bus window and spots a man wearing a full metal suit on the street. Amused, he leans out and mocks the stranger. But the man reveals a flamethrower, and before Jimmy can react, he's engulfed in flames. Homeless Jimmy burns to death, while Henry scrambles to escape yet again. Determined to complete his mission, Henry locates the building where Slick Dimitri is hiding. He scales the outside and climbs in through a window. Inside, he fights and kills every guard who gets in his way. Eventually, he makes it into Dimitri's room. Dimitri appears lifeless at first. Suddenly, a screen flickers on and Estelle appears. She warns Henry that Akan has already begun executing his plan and is building his army. As the message ends, Dimitri springs to life and attacks. The chase moves through the building and out into the streets. Henry relentlessly pursues him, and after a long pursuit, he gains the upper hand and knocks Dimitri down. Just as Dimitri is about to reveal something important about Jimmy, a bullet blows his head apart. Henry manages to escape the gunfire. He makes his way to the location Jimmy told him about, a brothel. Inside, he finds a wild version of Jimmy, high out of his mind and surrounded by 5 women. This version of Jimmy struggles to implant the booster pad into Henry's chest. He gives up and wanders off, leaving Henry with the women, who find him attractive and begin to flirt and play with him. The moment stirs fragmented memories in Henry's mind. He sees visions of Estelle and himself during intimate moments. A more focused Jimmy finally arrives and successfully installs the booster pad. Suddenly, a fresh batch of enemies bursts in. Henry opens fire and fights his way through them. He eventually reaches a room where Akan waits. Henry kills a man with a silver plate to the head. Akan flees the room. Henry continues to tear through more of the mercenaries. Alongside him is Jimmy, who now takes him to Katya and Olga, 2 dominatrix-style assassins with their own grudge against Akan. As more chaos erupts, Jimmy tells Henry to chase down one of Akan's vans using a motorcycle. Riding the bike at high speed, Henry goes after the van. He shoots at the mercenaries riding along and tosses grenades to take out clusters of enemies. He reaches the main van, kills 2 more guards, and finally sees Estelle again. They embrace, but Akan suddenly appears, blasting a massive hole into the side of the van with his powers and throwing Henry away with a violent telekinetic attack. Henry wakes up in the middle of a forest, surrounded by more of Akan's mercenaries. Before they can kill him, a new version of Jimmy, Hippie Jimmy, appears and wipes them out. Henry follows him and a woman deeper into the woods, but an explosion kills both of them. More mercenaries storm in, some even riding a tank. Henry cuts his way through the chaos, killing everyone in his path, including the tank operators and the soldiers on board a helicopter. He finally reaches an apartment building where Jimmy's laboratory is hidden. Inside, he comes across a horrifying scene: 3 dirty cops attempting to assault a woman. Henry kills 2 of them quickly. For the last one, he grabs his groin and crushes it before jamming a shotgun barrel down his throat. He moves deeper into the lab and finds an old video revealing everything. Jimmy once worked with Akan to build the cyborg army, using the remains of dead men. But when things went wrong, Akan retaliated by brutally snapping Jimmy's spine, leaving him crippled and betrayed. The real Jimmy, still in his wheelchair, greets Henry inside the lab and proudly introduces him to all the clone versions of himself. Their entrance? A dramatic, rehearsed dance routine, because apparently near-death situations call for choreography. But the mood takes a turn when punk Jimmy accuses Henry of being a traitor. Unbeknownst to him, Henry's been broadcasting his location to Aiken the whole time. Despite that, the original Jimmy chooses to trust him and vows to protect the lab at all costs. 3 of the clones, Punk, Camouflage, and Colonel, head out with Henry to defend against the incoming mercs. From above, Camouflage and Henry pick off enemies with sniper shots, while Punk charges in on foot, racking up kills before going out in a fiery explosion. Camouflage then rappels down with a grenade in hand, joining Colonel in the chaos. Together, they mow down waves of mercenaries. Just when it looks like Yuri and his elite crew might win, Colonel drops the ceiling on them, sacrificing himself in the process. Jimmy, fatally wounded by shrapnel to the neck, says his final words to Henry. He admits he'd seen Henry before he ever woke up and noticed a memory block in his brain, but left it untouched. He tells Henry that he's glad to have known him and urges him to look Akan in the eyes when he kills him. Henry storms Akan's facility for the final battle. Inside, Akan stands before his army of upgraded cyborgs, all brainwashed with the same fake love story Estelle used on Henry. They were all told she was their wife. Henry is disgusted. The cyborgs attack, but he tears through them with brutal efficiency, shooting, stabbing, exploding, decapitating, you name it. He reaches the rooftop for the final fight. Akan hits him with his powers, slamming him down. Estelle appears and confirms her betrayal. Henry is crushed emotionally and physically. As he lies near broken glass, his reflection looks eerily like his father's. Cue one last flashback. Young Henry watches as his father talks about being called weak by his own dad. He promises Henry that he'll never do the same and urges him to fight. That memory snaps Henry back. He injects himself with 2 adrenaline shots, grabs barbed wire, and wades through the remaining cyborgs. He gets close to Akan and mangles his hand, but Akan lifts him with his powers. Henry rips out his own mechanical eye stalk, wraps it around Akan's head, and slices the top half of it off. Henry boards a chopper where Estelle is waiting. He silently shows her Akan's severed head. In fury, she fires at him. The bullet ricochets and hits her instead. As she clings to the edge of the chopper, she begs Henry to listen to his heart. He does, and responds by slamming the door shut on her fingers, sending her plummeting to her death. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. See you in the next one.